In just 2 days, Ukraine was able to liberate a big portion of the city of Severodonetsk, the city which is crucial for Russian army to control in case they want to advance in Luhansk region. And you know, for Russia, losing Severodonetsk can potentially mean losing in this war. Why this city is so important to Russia? How Ukraine was able to regain the control over some parts of it? And what potentially can happen if Russia indeed loses Severodonetsk? And these are the questions that we'll be talking about in today's video. What's up, investors, Cheetah Chrome and people of Reddit. It's the Russian Dude and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war as of Monday, June 6th. You can see the main events of the day to my right, along with the timestamps. Alright, so here is a story for you. Okay, so imagine this, you're considered to be the second army of the world, and you spend months or maybe even years planning the invasion into your neighbor country. Then something doesn't go according to the plan, the invasion stalls, and you start blaming everyone else around you. And eventually you decide to switch your attention from the entire territory of another country and just to be laser focused in one region. So basically you send the majority of your fire and manpower in this territory trying to capture at least one city. So you spend couple of months trying to achieve this, and then just in couple of days your alleged enemy takes everything back from you. And yes, in this case I'm talking about the battle for Severodonetsk. So yes, it was even confirmed by Russian military commander Igor Girkin that at this very moment Russia is losing this battle for Severodonetsk. Because if you remember, for the last couple of weeks Russia was switching its attention towards capturing this city. Because at this very moment the main goal of Russia is to liberate the region of Lugansk. And one of two main cities which is on the way of Russian army towards this goal was the city of Severodonetsk, which Russia spent an enormous amount of time, fire and manpower to capture it, just to start losing it again in less than 48 hours. So basically what happened last week is that Russia was able to capture this city, but eventually it turned out that this was a genius plan of Ukraine all along, and they fake surrendered Severodonetsk, which in return allowed Ukrainians to trap Russians and start fighting them back. In addition to that, the next city for Russia to capture was the city of Lysychansk, which is geographically higher than Severodonetsk, which gives disadvantage to Russia. And because of this tactical surrender, Ukraine was able to gain actually the advantage in the future military combat. And as a result, just after 48 hours after fake surrendering Severodonetsk, Ukraine started to be able to retake it back. At this very moment, Ukraine is relatively successful at liberating Severodonetsk, and the majority of battles are happening next to eastern border. But Russia obviously doesn't want to give up this city as easy. And because of this, Russia started relocating even more of its soldiers all over across Ukraine just to this specific region. Which is, yes, as you can guess, leaves the rest of Ukraine even less protected. Which basically means that Ukraine will be able to launch even more successful counteroffensive. And even though Ukraine was pretty successful in the beginning of retaking Severodonetsk, at this very moment the counteroffensive has stalled. So it's like Ukrainian soldiers were able to push Russian soldiers away, but right now neither of the sides is advancing. Instead, Russian forces are fortifying the east of the city, while Ukrainians are fortifying the west and center of the city. And according to the governor of Luhansk region, Sergei Gaidai, it is estimated that at this very moment Ukrainians take control over approximately of 20 or 30% of the city. And the majority of Ukrainian forces are fortifying their positions in the industrial zone of Severodonetsk. So what we have at this very moment is that this city of Severodonetsk is the most dangerous place in Ukraine. And whoever takes the control over this city will have an advantage in the future of the war in this region. And because of this, neither Russia nor Ukraine is planning to give up that easy. So what I'm saying here is that we can expect many news coming from this city in the next couple of weeks. In case Russia loses Severodonetsk, this will make it almost impossible for them to liberate the Luhansk region, which is at this very moment is one of the few remaining goals of Russia in this war, because all the previous goals they kinda failed. But in case Ukraine loses control over this city, Russian forces will continue their advancement in the Luhansk region, which theoretically in the best case scenario for Russia, let's say so, they take the control over the entire region, which basically means that we might expect that Russia will pronounce its victory. Let's see what will happen in the nearest future, and I will always be here to report you the most recent updates. And by the way, if you like this style of daily news reporting, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please make sure to check the link in the description if you want to support Ukraine with us. You can get some additional content and all the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine at the end of each month. Thanks so much, and let's continue. Welcome to another episode of Ridiculous Russian Propaganda. And today we have this ex-military psychic who says that he can see the future. And so what basically this old poor man says is that he knows exactly the date in the future when President Zelensky surrenders. And I mean, it would be okay to show this nonsense on some like random TV channel. But no, Russia started showing this guy during prime hours on the federal channels. There were even some kind of experts who confirmed that indeed this guy has these psychic talents, which is basically like, yes, you can trust him. Today Vladimir Putin once again, and not for the very first time, threatened that he will destroy even more Ukraine in case Western countries continue to send weapons to Ukraine. What he basically said that in case Ukraine indeed receives weapons from the West, Russia will have to destroy these weapons no matter in which city they're located. And then he also added that this includes striking against these Ukrainian territories which were previously untouched. And I mean, we already know that at this very moment Ukraine is already receiving and will continue receiving Western weapons, so let's see if this is just another bluff from the president of Russia. The Children's Rights Commissioner of Russia, Maria Lvova-Belova, said that she approves the participation of kids in patriotic flash mobs. She basically said that in case kids want to go on the streets and protest supporting Russian army and show how much of a patriots they are, why should we restrict this? She then added that parents of these kids must be extremely proud of their children because they raise such good Russian citizens. And I mean, at the same time, just a couple of months ago, when our Russian kids were protesting against the war, these kids were detained along with their parents. And the response from the Russian government was something like this. Why would these parents who don't know anything what's going on involve their children in their political mess? So which is basically like, if you're using your kids to protest against the government, you're a bad parent and a bad person. Because you got involved kids who basically do not understand what's going on. But suddenly, if you want to use your kids and support the war and killing of civilians, then suddenly you're a very patriotic and must be a proud parent. And yes, once again, the title of this person is the Commissioner for Children's Rights in Russia. Today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia released a statement under which they're saying that this money that Ukraine receives after selling its own agricultural products will go towards buying Western weapons. And I mean, to be honest, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of any country should not care how different countries use the money. But in my personal opinion, I think that the reason why they released this statement, it is because to justify stealing Ukrainian wheat. Which is basically like, if we are not taking wheat from Ukrainians and selling it ourselves, Ukrainians will buy weapons for this and kill civilians. So in fact, it is us, Russians, who are heroes who are preventing Ukrainians from getting weapons and killing their own people. And speaking about this Ukrainian wheat problem, the head of the office of the president of Ukraine, Andrei Yermak, mentioned that America will not be subject to be blackmailed by Russia who are using this wheat. Because if you remember, last week the representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Maria Zakharova, mentioned that in case world wants to continue receiving wheat supplies, they will need to remove sanctions from Russia, which was basically the official confirmation of Russia that they are intending to use wheat to blackmail the world. And so, like mentioned previously, America responded to this statement saying that they will not be blackmailed. Instead, in case the situation with the wheat gets worse, America will think about other ways how they can get access to wheat. Today, the prosecutor's office of Donetsk Republic mentioned that they're considering death sentences for 3 prisoners of war. These 3 prisoners of war are basically mercenaries from UK and Morocco. And the reason for these potential death penalties, it is because they were mercenaries who are attempting to do terrorist acts on the territory of Donetsk Republic. Let's see if they actually follow through on these threats, which I obviously hope they will not, because killing the residents of different countries will most certainly not leave these countries without a response. Today, the president of the United States of America, Joe Biden, declared a state of emergency in the US. And the main reason for this declaration, it is because there are problems on the energy market, specifically if we are talking about electricity and electricity production. The White House mentioned that the reasons for these problems, it is because Russia invaded Ukraine. And I guess at this very moment, America can blame Russia for almost every internal problem. But long story short, in order to attempt to solve these problems, America will try to make it easier to, for example, import solar panels panels from Asia. Because according to them, at this very moment, solar energy looks as one of the most promising energy sources in the future. And the president also warned Americans that unfortunately some of them will experience more than usual power outages this summer. Today, the US made an announcement that they will remove some restrictions so that Venezuelan oil can be shipped into Europe. And it looks like that this action is the response of America for potential oil shortages in the future in Europe because there is an embargo for Russian oil. Because whenever one of the first anti-Russian sanctions were announced, which obviously included the embargo for Russian oil, America said, "Don't worry Europe, we got you covered." And so allowing Venezuela to ship its oil into Europe looks like just one of the solutions to this promise. Thank you so much for your attention, check the link in the description, stay safe and see you tomorrow.